Take it. Ted Mosby.
And it is Binge Brothers Live coming at you on this fantastic Tuesday evening. My name is Max Walk. I'm joined by my best friend Kevin Corcoran from Chicago of the Illinois state. Kevin, what's up, buddy?
The Second City Saint is here, the savior of Binge Brothers. Kevin Cork is here. What's up, Maxie Poo? This is episode 11. I'm so happy we're here because this is maybe our most important episode we've done yet.
It's quite literally what this podcast has been building to, and we aren't going to, but we could just end the podcast with this episode and have a full, cinematic universe of a podcast show, one season, but
that's long-term story building right there. That's what we just did essentially.
Yeah, it is. We've talked about this is as we have been kind of talking about, but not being specific. We are talking about and breaking down, reviewing, talking spoilers of Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Snyder Cut, if you will, that released last Thursday, March 18th on HBO Max. It's been out now 5 days or 6 days, and we both have had a chance to see the 4-hour cut. We've talked about this from the very beginning of some of our early episodes. We've talked about the trailers. We've talked about the casting news of the Joker and just everything, every crazy direction that this wild ride has taken us on. It's led us to here. We're in the end game now, to quote one of my favorite movies of all time. All right, Kevin, let's break this down. When did you watch the Snyder Cut? When did you watch the Justice League? Did you watch it on Thursday?
So I watched it last week on Thursday. I went through. I did the hero's journey, which is the full 4-hour movie all in one sitting. I don't even think I took a break. I think we sat through the entire time. The hero's journey. That's what it is, baby. 4 hours. 4 hours sitting on one couch, going through 6 different chapters, including an epilogue. Or sorry, not including the epilogue. And I can tell you one thing, and before we even jump into this, that 4 hours, baby, it was worth it. It was worth it. It was worth the wait. It was worth the hype. It was worth all that everything everyone went through to make sure that this film was out there and on HBO Max. I'm just so ecstatic that it lived up to all expectations, and for me personally, and I'm a shill. I'm a shill for DC. So honestly, it could have been the exact same. They could have put out a couple new scenes, maybe like honestly 5 minutes of new content from the original Justice League, and I would have fallen in love with it as well, just because it was just brand new. But honestly, and we can start from this. Max and I, you and I were huge. I mean, you and I were pretty gracious with the original cut. We never started reviewing back, when the 2017 version came out. But we both were texting each other like, what, this is something that we actually enjoyed. I think you saw it twice in theaters. You paid two times.
I did. I saw it with my father on opening weekend or opening night, and then I saw it again with a few friends later that weekend, I want to say. If I remember correctly, it was over Thanksgiving break or in November at least. So, yeah, I had a good time with the initial cut. When I first watched it in theaters, it was the big spectacle film that I had a lot of fun with. There were some funny moments. I thought Ezra Miller was really fun as the Flash, and I really just enjoy watching Batman, especially Ben Affleck's Batman on screen. So I always enjoyed it, and I had a good thinking of it. So I've watched bits and pieces.
We enjoyed Age of Ultron. I was saying we enjoyed Age of Ultron. We thought Joss Whedon, when Zack Snyder ended up leaving, we thought to ourselves, I mean, Joss Whedon at least was, going to put out a decent movie, which, on paper, it was a superhero movie with 6 new superheroes coming together. Unfortunately, they had to try to do that in 2 hours. But I mean, it was something that I think on paper we were just like, this is entertaining. Not the greatest movie we've ever seen, but I mean, truthfully, dude, I think I saw it one time in theater and I saw it one time outside of theaters. That's it. I honestly never watched it more than twice.
I watched when you watched it the second time is when I watched the second half with you in Chicago, and then I rewatched the whole thing last week.
Oh my God, you're right.
And
so then it would have been 3 times, I guess.
so so you watched it one other time. So yeah, so I watched it for I guess my third full viewing last weekend. A lot of the flaws started glaring a little bit more there, and the Snyder cut. I watched it as well on Thursday night. I watched the 4 hours all in one night. I did take a break around the 2.5 hour mark just for a little bit, get some water, make sure my blood was
Yeah,
still
get some
flowing.
water. Yeah, make sure the blood's still flowing. Yeah, no, yeah.
That's exactly
Yeah.
what I said. Thank you for reassuring me. I was scared.
No,
there
the
for a
blood was
second.
flowing, baby.
And-
The blood was flowing. And speaking of blood, this movie had it. No, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. So I'll just let's just get into it. So my general thoughts are like very, very positive, and I think I would say I love this movie. I think I was pretty high on it right off the bat. After I watched it, I really thought it was fantastic, and I still have a very huge reverence for it. I think after letting it simmer for a few days, rewatching some scenes, I don't think it's as like amazing as that was at first. It's still probably like A minus A in that teetering range for me, but the experience of watching the 4 hours and seeing what that spectacle was supposed to be, it really was a great experience and extremely improved upon the theatrical cut. I mean, just the time we're able to breathe with these characters, understand them more, and they're not just kind of like side weird characters. When you actually have an understanding of where they're coming from, it really was unbelievable to see, how that emotional connection can pay off even more in the finale, so to speak. So, yeah, just your overall thoughts, Kevin. You hated it, right?
Yeah, no, I despise it. No, so I watched this movie with my old ball and chain. God bless her. She watched all 4 hours with me, and she's somebody who hated the entire DC universe before this. I mean, besides like Joker, she liked Wonder Woman, but never loved it, of course. It's just one of those things where Batman versus Superman. She honestly was like, "This is trash. I don't need to ever watch this again." But I think for her, this kind of blew her expectations because her expectations were 6 feet under the ground, at that point, and below dog shit, all that kind of stuff. So for her, I'd done a lot to try to hype it up, and honestly, I think she also was like, Kevin's not gonna be able to hype this up. There's no way that this movie's gonna be able to, live up to the expectations not only that Kevin gave, but live up to the expectations of just what society was starting to bring it as. I mean, this is a movie that Zack Snyder, he they put $70 million into this new movie. Or was it 80? 70 or 80 $80 million.
At least
a lot of good marketing to it. Yeah, they definitely hyped it up, and just the story behind it. If you guys ever want to read, learn a little bit more about it, just what happened, everything along there. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you kind of understand what's going on. But check out, I don't really know which video. I'm sure videos online that kind of go over everything that's kind of happened with the process of what happened, why Zack Snyder left, why he got brought on, and just kind of how this came to fruition in the main point. But I loved it. I'd give it the same score. If I had to give it a score, I'd probably give it now that I think about it and I'm letting it kind of simmer a little bit, I give it a 4.25 out of 5, which I think is a very good score for me. Honestly, if I could give it I'd say it's a 9. I don't know. It's equivalent to like a 9 out of 10 for me. So I'd say probably 4.5.
Yeah, 4.5.
I mean, it was one of those movies, and I want to also preface this by saying that Max he tried to bring me down a notch too. He goes, Kevin, I think you're just going to automatically love it and I'm going to like it. And you maybe said really like, I'll give you that maybe. No, you loved it. You loved it. You end up Max.
I do. I love it. Yeah.
And it's one of those movies where the only thing for me that brings it down, and let's start off, if we have to start with the bad because the rest of it's going to be good, I'll do it. It's a 4-hour movie. It's a movie that it's hard for me to be like, okay, I'm going to go and try to rewatch this. It's more of a thing where I may start a chapter up. I may go to let's say chapter 4, 5, and 6 and try to watch that in a night instead of watching the first 3, which every single chapter has its own, to each its own. I
Yeah.
think honestly, the first chapter has some of the best cinematic, throughout the entire movie. To me, I mean, there's a lot of changes. There's a lot of things that stay the same, but you'll notice that with this movie, that it honestly kind of makes you a little dumbfounded. Kind of like how the hell did they create the movie in 2017? How did Warner Brothers come up to think to themselves, yeah, this 2017 version is more like what we wanted for the vision for the Warner Brothers, for the DCU for the future going forward. Because I mean, this just blows it out of the park. I mean, this entire weekend, Max, was taken over by if you go on social media, it was essentially all Justice League Snyderverse, and especially when it was going against
Right.
another Disney movie, or sorry, a Disney show, as in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So the fact that it
Which
kind of
was,
took over all that hype, that just shows how good it was. And Max, don't even
I
try.
would
It
say
definitely took over the hype.
there's on social media people are talking about it more, but there's definitely no way that more people watch the Snyder Cut than Falcon Winter Soldier. More people watched Falcon Winter Soldier for sure.
I mean, it wasn't the Falcon and Winter Soldier like the number one show of all, like the number one debut that Disney's ever had?
They said it's their biggest debut of a show yet, or a movie show, whatever, on Disney Plus, and
That's
that's
what I thought.
also
Yeah,
boiled down more. That's because worldwide they have 100 million subscribers, where HBO Max still has 40 million. People still don't even understand how to unlock HBO Max if they have HBO. So that's more of just like where they can actually like reach. Like Disney Plus is in countries that the Snyder Cut isn't, which from what I understand, actually, it was released on like VOD on like Vudu and where you can rent it in countries where it's not the HBO Max is not available yet. So, um, but there's definitely no way around it. I mean, I think I saw a lot of Falcon Winter Soldier talk too, but it was definitely the Snyder Cut people were talking about more, especially getting that day ahead. The Thursday, Friday were really dominated. Where I think later in the weekend people started talking a little bit more about Falcon Winter Soldier after maybe it really dominated them. They watched Snyder Cut for a few days in a row, at least in the nerd circles and whatnot. But it was just kind of fun watching all the discussions, good and bad. Seeing people who have hated or disliked a lot of the direction Zack Snyder went in his first two movies and coming around and actually enjoying certain things. Yeah, I also kind of think that even though I might not sit down and watch this whole thing too often, I think also it's got that streaming effect where I could sit down at 9 o'clock and watch parts 1 and 2, and then come back the next night to watch part 3 and 4, and pause it, and it'll stay there because on my streaming services I can pause it really nice and cleanly. But yeah, it's just I don't know.
which makes you question. I mean, on paper, could this be released in theaters? I mean, I know they're going to release it into IMAX later on, which I feel like if you're, now that they put this on HBO, I mean, I
That's
think it
not
was honestly
confirmed.
smarter putting it on to HBO. Whatever. Okay, Max. Either way, if they were to put it on the HBO or onto IMAX, because I'm an idiot and I think it might go on to IMAX. I have nothing confirmed.
He wants it to, and
I mean, I
if he
think this
does,
is a
I'll
smarter
go
way.
watch it.
What I mean
Yeah,
is, the fact that they put it on HBO before putting it into like theaters. I think is such a smart way to do this because it just makes it easier for you to be able to, if you need to watch it tomorrow, finish it up, you can watch it tomorrow, not
yeah,
having
that's
to watch
exactly
this for the
right.
first time.
Yeah, and I know people that I mean not personally, but people that I follow on Twitter and interact with that said that they watched half one night and half another over a few nights in a row, just because a lot of people don't have that time. They can't stay up till 12:30 at night like me and Kevin can. Our young blood. So regardless of all that stuff, why don't we talk about the movie? Actually, let's just get it down
Yeah,
into it. We'll do an official. Well, I don't know if we're going to dive directly into spoilers, but we'll just say we're going to talk about everything that happens in the movie going
I'd say
forward.
there might be there's probably gonna be spoilers in this. So warning anybody you're looking for it. I'm guessing
100%,
I'm gonna go ahead and drop a couple.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just saying, I don't know if we're going to go right now, but just like beware. And then the rest of the podcast, we're going to talk about everything. So if you haven't watched
Yeah.
it, that's your warning. Um, First off, just in a direct comparison of the two movies, Warner Brothers' whole thing from 2017 of wanting to change the movie doesn't even make sense because it's still the same story narratively. Like point A to point B to point C, it's still the same exact movie, except they just cut out a lot of the critical scenes of building up these characters. They put on some weird things of a Russian family, and they changed a lot of some of the action scenes, some of the dialogue, and what like Superman and Flash do at the end, how that how that everything culminates and how that's all wrapped up. And I don't get how Warner Brothers couldn't have just had an editor come down and edit it down to 2 hours versus actually shooting at extra scenes. It just doesn't make sense to me. And as we learn more and more about how Kevin Tsujihara was very dead set, you couldn't push past the release date. He wanted to get his bonus based on his box office for that year, so he didn't. He like selfishly said that you can't push it past into the next year because he had to get his bonus for this move for release 2017. It's just a slap in the face. Obviously,
capitalism at its finest.
I just wanted to say that. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just don't understand even what they needed Joss Whedon for. I mean, the funniest parts of the 2017 version, I think, are still in this version, and the worst jokes are the jokes that Joss Whedon, filmed. And so it just doesn't make sense. Plus, the Superman stuff where he just looks terrible with his mustache that's, CGI'd out. They could have just kept the Superman stuff. It's baffling to me because this is so much better. And I think without Joss Whedon, they could have cut it down to 2 hours and even had a better 2-hour cut, even if this still would have come. And cutting all the Cyborg stuff out, it's truly baffling, the stuff that they cut out with Cyborg, and it really makes me wonder what their real thoughts were.
Yeah, I mean, Cyborg's the heart and soul of this entire movie, I'd say. The fact, and I mean, he's one of my favorite parts. I think my girlfriend, I asked her, who are your favorite characters? Max, you want to be able to not have to sneeze into the camera or into your microphone? Sorry, Max,
away from the camera.
Yeah, thank God we all can hear everything.
I could tell I was getting a little nasally. It's spring. I've gotten some allergies. I'm not sick, but I went away from the mic, but still picked it up. It's a good mic.
Yeah. So like I was saying, Cyborg is the heart and soul of this film. I remember just thinking how much, and one of my favorite things is I just remember thinking to myself, like, instead of Cyborg just, in the 2017 version, he kind of was just there because he had superpowers. He's a robot. He's like, oh, I guess I'll kind of join this league. There was no there was nothing. You didn't really know much about his powers. There was no real storyline with his father. And when the storyline between his father and this version is something that made me almost. There's a couple scenes that made me tear up. I'm not going to try to go too deep into it. But I think also just one of my favorite things is just Cyborg's conflict with himself. His conflict with who he used to be, his father, and also just accepting who he is about to become. I think it's just one of those things where in the original cut, you just don't really see much into it. I think one of the coolest scenes, just because I'm a football nerd, is him, seeing him become, be that football player, on the field. I just think it just added a lot of levity to this.
Not a directed football play either. I mean, there's some football plays that just come off like they don't know how football is played, but this actually seems like a play that probably is unrealistic, but it seemed like it was actually how a football play could go down.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, honestly, if you ask anybody, Cyborg was probably the biggest surprise of this movie. I think that's why we're bringing him up first, just because. Like we said, in the last movie, he really was nothing. And I remember just Zack Snyder and all the rumors talking about how big and how influential Cyborg was supposed to be in the original cut. And it's just one of those things that I cannot believe that, it honestly, this is messed up. It's really messed up, the fact of what they
really messed
in the 2017 version.
Honestly, I think it all comes down to race and that he's a black character. And I think they want to cut out. I mean, in the original cut, they did not show one picture of him as himself before he was transitioned to Cyborg, and there's so many shots and scenes of him before he was Cyborg and of Ray Fisher actually as a whole person. And there in this movie, just Zack Snyder does such a great job at showing you who he is, having the whole sequence where he helps this waitress and gives her money because she's struggling, she can't provide for her family. It shows you his heart, and it shows you like what he can do and how like they actually show you how his powers could work and how he could use them negatively and just to help himself and not be a hero. But he immediately goes and uses them to help somebody, and it shows you, just that, just having that there, having that one scene there, it shows you so much about Cyborg, and it makes you really love him, honestly. And then it leads to my probably favorite moment of the movie when he's, inside the mother boxes, he's trying to separate them, and he says, "I'm not."
Which is that? Is that in? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to break that up. Sorry. Yes, amazing scene. Oh my god, I forgot about that. Honestly,
fantastic.
Do you want to repeat that, or do you just keep going into it? Because that is fantastic.
No. I think it all came through. That moment is so strong because it's him fighting with this whole thing, the whole movie of being a cyborg, not being himself, not really understanding, thinking he's broken, having people tell him, "Don't show yourself because look at yourself. You're just half human, half robot," and coming to grips with understanding and like accepting who he is, that I'm not broken, I'm me, I'm Victor Stone. That's just a beautiful moment. Also
Accepting the fact that he lived, and the one family member that he was with, his mother, who we saw in the football scene, who was there, the only one there, not the father.
Yeah.
She ended up dying in the car crash. I mean, it just showed you, just one of those things, like, the one person he actually connected with, his mother. It just things that it just adds so much to it all. And I'm so glad that this movie is just right there. If anything, is one reason why I'm just so happy that this movie was released. Just adding that kind of thing. Again, Cyborg was just a character. Really, he was just a name character I knew from Teen Titans back in the day, and then that movie did no justice. So yeah, I mean, this was just And sorry, you were going into your next point. You were bringing up the Flash.
Yeah, I was gonna. I was kind of already there at the finale, so I was just gonna kind of talk about the whole segment. So, in the original movie, Superman comes down, and he comes down. The Cyborg and Superman they get removed the mother boxes, and that's just how it ends. But in this, they fail. The mother boxes come together. They start killing all the life forms, and the Flash has to. He goes into his Flash. I don't even know what it's called. I forget what the.
And before we go into this, can I give my point on the Flash? Kind of just one thing, because I hated the Flash. I hated the Flash in the original movie.
Really,
that scene. So we're gonna go into that. One of my favorite scenes. Yeah, take your headphones out so we don't hear you blow into it. I love Flash's entire purpose in this as well. I love the fact that we got a preview into his, a little bit of his, because I know the movie's coming out in 2022. So we got a preview into, kind of his love in the beginning of his introduction, which in this movie, the introduction for the Flash is completely different to the introduction for him in the last movie. Still, the scene where he's meeting his father is in this movie, but it's not the way you kind of just get to meet him. Pretty much the same scene. Yeah. I just think with the Flash, and also one thing I like about the Flash is that all of his jokes, I don't know why, maybe I was just in a better mood because I was enjoying this movie just a ton more. They all just seemed to hit a little bit better for me. I honestly thought that like even though they're the same jokes, I just thought they were funnier. I don't know. I just everything.
The worst jokes, the Dostoevsky joke or whatever with the Russian family, and some of the worst jokes are cut out. Those were Joss Whedon jokes, and
oh god,
I think some of them more like down to earth
on Wonder Woman.
Yeah, jumping on Wonder Woman's boobs, like that's out of here. Thank God. Like
the brunch, at least the brunch is out. Thank God, the brunch joke. Maybe the worst joke I've ever heard in my entire life.
Like, what is it? Like, what is brunch? I mean, like people.
What is brunch? You just stand in line for a couple of hours and you talk. So just like, come on, we get it. And I guess it was supposed to show that he was on the spectrum a little bit, as from what I've done in my research. But kind of like Hayes. I don't know if you know Hayes. Kind of reminds me of Hayes a little bit. Hayes would definitely say something like that, like "What's brunch?" And I know he's not watching, but yeah. Sorry, Max, keep going. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I mean the whole introduction to that scene. So like, I kind of have conflicting thoughts with it because it doesn't really do much to show that character of like the Cyborg character, his scene with the waitress. It didn't build up that character.
You mean
as much
Flash?
For that scene. Yeah, no, I'm just comparing the Flash and the Cyborg
Oh,
scene. The
sorry.
scene with Iris West where he saves her. I mean, that whole scene is just so weird because there's the guy drops his hot dog and he's driving and he is scrambling around trying to pick up his hot dog on the gross floor of his truck, and then
No, it was a
Flash
burger.
comes. Well, it was a burger, whatever it was. Either way, it's like
Sorry.
weird. And then the Flash comes through, and there's like a cool moment where he breaks the glass with his
Excuse me.
finger. It's okay. And then he like goes up to like Iris, he like plays with her hair, and then he grabs a hot dog, and it's just so weird. Like, okay, at least he doesn't eat the hot dog, at least he gives it to the dogs, but still it's just weird scene. And I thought it was maybe the one scene that maybe didn't need to be in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to jump. I actually want to talk. Can we talk about the other characters as well before we go into that last, the last climax?
Yeah.
I mean, just because I want to talk about also, I like another one. We can move on from the Flash. All I know is that the Flash did have some scenes where just, I think the reason why we like the Flash better in this is because all of the characters seem to gel much better. They're a little bit more human-like in this movie. It was no longer them just, acting like they were just having scenes of, just like you're a superhero, I'm a superhero, trying to alpha each other, or trying to like, Aquaman calling, Wonder Woman just like a beautiful, gorgeous woman. Nothing like that. I think they all respected each other. And speaking of Aquaman, I think Aquaman,
lasso of truth.
Yeah, he's not being just a huge dick in this movie, because then if you look in the last movie, he just kind of questions everyone. He's kind of a prick to everyone, whereas this one, he's the cool dude. He actually has a scene with the Flash, which I really like, in that he actually asks him kind of his backstory and kind of asks, how are we going to do this? I mean, I just think I had liked Aquaman a lot better, which I don't think I realized I didn't like him in the original one. I just think he was much more like open to being a team member. I think it wasn't, It wasn't him just being a stereotypical douchebag guy. He was just, drinking all the time and surfing and ladies, baby. And for him, I mean, it just added, again, more levity to it. And I also thought with the Aquaman, even though it was a very, very similar scene, I love that they start off with the movie with Aquaman, with going straight to Aquaman. I think it was in Switzerland, if I had to be correct. Because I think they're speaking Swedish. Like my girlfriend had the
original,
But I just thought it added.
It was like, either way, it doesn't matter.
Oh, and yeah, but I just love the fact that it right from the start, you notice that it's completely different from the scene. I just thought the scene just went over way better. I don't know if it just seemed, darker. Batman, Batman being on the top of that mountain. I liked it.
Yeah, I agree with all that. You didn't need the ending with the Scandinavian women singing the song of the gods.
Oh, I hated that. I'm not gonna lie, I hated that. That could have been. That's one of the things I did not like.
I agree. The whole scene overall obviously felt more fleshed out and like seemed like cool. Like, oh, this is like where Aquaman, he supplies for this whole town. He brings them food in the winter when they can't provide for themselves. Like, that's really great. That ending was just weird. So that's like a minute maybe I would have cut out. Again, the 4-hour thing, that's again where my most where it brings it down, because I think if it was 3.5, 3:35, it could have really been like phenomenal and flown through and had great pace. But there's just some stuff that he kind of wanted to include everything, which I understand, and I'm not like, it's not like it doesn't ruin the movie for me. It's just I think it could have been like a perfect 3.5 hours.
Yeah, Zack Snyderisms is what they call it. It's like there's just the random little things. Yeah, the Snyderisms. Another thing is also, dude, can we talk about Steppenwolf?
Let's. He was also probably one of the biggest improvements for me.
I'd say so. He's actually a badass in this. He actually has purpose. He's not somebody that's literally orgying for his mother. Just like constantly dropping mothers.
I'm gonna get your mother.
Mother. Exactly. And I just love the fact that he essentially, the reason why he was even there was essentially just to I guess pay back his debt to Darkseid. Because what's the best way of paying back your debt to Darkseid? By essentially taking over the planet that Darkseid was unable to take. Which again that was one of the coolest scenes when it was essentially Darkseid's army against all the gods, gods of the earth coming together, kind of like a 300-esque scene.
You got Ares, David Thewlis' Ares in there. It's great.
Yeah, just a great scene, and you got to see that this is why this world is so important to Darkseid is because I mean they ended up taking him out, and they ended up
Yeah.
kicking his ass. So I mean it's cool to see that. I thought it was interesting that it really proved that I guess with that one they literally had to bring all the gods together to come and try to try to stop Darkseid from taking this planet. And again, in the modern day with the Justice League, they had to bring the gods of the of the world again to try to take back or prevent Darkseid from taking over again. So I just love the fact and the fact that Darkseid was even introduced. Darkseid wasn't even in the original.
Exactly. I mean, you don't want to overemphasize the dark side because he's not like he's probably in like what 2 or 3 minutes of the whole movie, but just
Yeah,
having that connection, showing how Steppenwolf he wants to conquer Earth so he can get back on Darkseid's side. You understand what a character is coming from, what his intentions are, and that's so important for the villain because if you don't understand a villain, if you can't understand what he's doing, why it's bad, and why we want our heroes to kick his ass, then the whole action, the whole uh, climactic moments of the movie can't pay off if you're not invested in our heroes taking down the villain. And the his whole design obviously looks a lot better. I like the armor, and yeah, just the whole movie.
just
Him
a
talking
badass.
about God. Yeah, he looked pretty. He looked more badass, and the whole. I think also one of the most improved segments was when he comes to when he goes to the Amazons in I forget.
Yeah, the Amazon woman's
Themyscira.
the
In
island.
Themyscira, yeah,
Okay,
Themyscira, yeah. It's that scene is so cool and like it's like
one of my
kind
favorite scenes in the
it's like
entire movie.
it's great. It's great stuff. It shows Connie Nielsen being a badass Wonder Woman's mom. It shows all the warrior, Amazons and how they'll fight, for their earth, for their land, for everything. It's just a great scene, and it was cut up so weirdly. It
They took
also
out
just
my favorite
reminded me
line of the
again.
movie. Amazons, show them your fear. We have no fear. Boom, go to war. Like I love that.
Yeah, that was really cool. I thought it was good. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's badass, and it makes me lament not getting Justice League 2 and 3 and seeing these Amazons come together with the Lanterns and with the humans and with the Justice League and getting the huge war that was his initial vision. But we got this at least.
Yeah. And I just thought that scene, and we can go into that scene. I'm gonna go into that scene a little bit more. I just also think it helped show that this man is very powerful. The fact that, they took out the entire temple where the mother box was at. He ended up going into the ocean. And just we thought, it was for sure done. They're like, let's get it out of here. And that scene where they're, going against the green, the open valley, and all these Amazons are trying to prevent him from stopping them, and it's brutal. This is the scene I think that truly shows that this
And
is
he's
a rated
shucking
R film.
horses. Yeah, and another one where he's searching for the second mother box. In the original, he just kind of shows up in Atlanta or Atlantis, and you don't really know. You're just like, oh, he just figured out it's there, and he
Atlanta.
takes it. Atlanta, yeah, exactly, Atlantis. And
Yeah.
in this one, his parademons find Atlanteans. They're plucking them out of the soil. He's chucking them under rocks and blood spewing, and
I thought
he
that was a cool
puts a
scene too.
spider on their head. Yeah, I like that. I liked him showing how he's investigating, how he's finding the mother boxes, how he's got a little interrogation spider that just projects people's thoughts and memories. That's just super cool. And then his fight with Mara and Aquaman, I thought was great. And how Mara uses her like powers. She's like pulling the blood out of him before he has to like fight
The
back.
water and the blood.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it just all worked for me. Also, shout out to Willem Dafoe and that luscious locks of hair. Just great stuff.
Was that shot? You think that was like the idea beforehand, or was that something that he shot recently? I mean, that was interesting.
I think that was initially what the thought was, and then James Wan probably just kind of. I mean, there was also like the water bubble stuff and everything. I think I like kind of the changes James Wan did make to Atlantis and to that whole to like the direction of how all these people, how the underwater stuff works. But it still worked for this movie, and it didn't like take away from Justice League.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, man. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else that we're missing before we go into the climax, which I think is probably the biggest improvement of the entire 2017 to 2020? I think that's the biggest improvement. I'm trying to think. I do have a couple notes here. Lois Lane, a little lame to me. I'm not gonna lie. Just she has and of course she's gonna be lame to me because she's only had 2 or 3 scenes in this movie.
Yeah, it's like they had to. I understand they show the scenes of her going to the statue every morning, so they set up that she will be, around the area, so she can come to Superman when he comes back to life. Not. Yeah, it's stuff that probably can come or go. It didn't do anything for me, but they have the scene with Lois Lane with Martian Manhunter where it's Martha Kent. Then it turns out to be Harry Lennox's Martian Manhunter disguise, which
Mm-hmm.
is odd. I popped in the moment. I thought it was really cool, but I feel like it would have been a more powerful scene knowing that it was, Martha Kent and them having that relationship and having that conversation. But it still was like a cool moment. I don't know. What do you think about
That is
that?
one thing I would say. That is one thing this movie did kind of. Oh, sorry, I'm all excited from this, so I didn't mean to over talk you there.
No,
That is
I was
one thing
saying
with this movie. They could have maybe dived in more into the relationship of post Superman with Martha and Lois, because I mean, honestly, if you think about it, the only scene that we saw them truly come together was when Superman came back to life. Considering that wasn't Martha speaking with her, which was huge. I mean, that is a good scene because that was needed. It was essentially Martian Manhunter, being Martha, going there and being like, you got to get back into journalism. You can't, you got to be able to move on. Not necessarily move on, but you got to become the person who you were before Clark Kent.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't hate the scene.
So I guess that was a big scene.
It was just a little bit tonally weird. Like, that was the only thing. So I say let's get into Superman returning, and then we'll get kind of into the climax where it all builds up. That's kind of the one thing we haven't touched on. So it's kind of the same setup.
Okay, yeah, you go into it. Yeah, sorry. I mean, I think it's similar setup. I would just say this is more important because they realize essentially we cannot stop Steppenwolf unless we bring back Superman.
That's right, yeah. And even just the scene of them, standing around the mother box, all in they're kind of like all like talking, like what are we gonna do, like what are our options, and they like talk about what the mother box can do, how it can kind of reverse like life itself, so hence maybe take somebody back from the dead. And it's just a cool moment when they're all kind of talking about it and they're all have the same thoughts, and they're going to bring up Superman, and then they're all like, oh, we're all thinking the same thing, right? And then Cyborg has a little vision of Superman that he puts over the mother box, which is great. And it sets up this moment which is kind of pretty much the same, but this is the cool part where it shows just that. So they have the same setup where Flash has to run, touch the mother box, and then that'll awaken Superman. It has that cool moment where the mother box, where he just for a second reverses time. You can see it because the mother box goes into the water and then comes back out, and then the Flash touches it. So it's kind of a great little, foreshadowing of the ending there, which in the moment I'm like, ooh, interesting. And then at the end I'm like, oh, I see what they're doing now. So that was cool. And just the whole fight with Superman just worked better, I thought. You still have the great moment with the Flash running by and Superman looking, but you've got, great moments like the Flash getting tripped up, running into Aquaman, and then Aquaman flips him off. It was just a great, I think it was a more fleshed out scene overall, and it led to Steppenwolf getting the box back and Victor's dad dying.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was a good. I mean, another very cool scene, which was in the original cut from 2017, was the scene where Flash, and everyone's like kind of doing their superpower, and then we're all like, "Oh, Flash, come on, Flash! Like you can stop him. You're the fast as a speed, as light." And he ends up running by. You to see Superman, who's got both of, I think it was it Aquaman and Cyborg in his hand, or was it maybe Captain or Wonder Woman?
Those three are all holding him.
Yes. And then you just see, Flash, of course, going by, and trying to go by, and you just see Superman look him in the eyes, and Flash has this look, and he doesn't hit the Flash, but it's the first time where you're like, this is supposed to be the fastest man in the world. Oh wait, sorry, we've got the kid, the god from Kryptonite, or sorry, from Krypton, Kal-El. And also another thing I want to point out is I hate the fact that they kept Wonder Woman's Kal-El, like the line from 2017. They kept it in this one as well. Yeah, when she's like, Kal-El, no. Kal-El, no.
Gal Gadot, she looks great as Wonder Woman. She still is a little rough here and there when she gives, the dialogue about the history of the war. She's great visually.
Wonder Woman's one of the only good things about the original movie, I feel like, though. So it's like, I feel like we're not talking about her enough because she was one of the shining moments of that movie.
I mean, Wonder Woman's great in the movie, of course, yeah, and that whole
opening scene with Wonder Woman is amazing, and I feel bad that we haven't even talked about her enough because she's phenomenal in this movie, and any fight scene she's amazing.
Yeah, as the fight scenes and that whole her character is great. I'm just saying, Gal Gadot, you can tell this is still when she's improving as an actress, and there are some lines that are a little bit wonky here and there, but it doesn't take away from overall. I still really enjoy Wonder Woman. She's great in the role.
I will say though, the one thing that actually made me laugh from the Joss Whedon cut from 2017 was when Batman got his ass kicked, and he said, and you just see him on the grass, just being like, "Something's definitely bleeding." I actually thought that was hilarious. So I was sad that was a Joss Whedon one because I laughed my ass off during that. I thought that was a Snyder cut, but yeah, another good scene. So yeah, Max, should we just jump into the climax, to the main event?
Yeah. Let's just kind of pick out some of the things we liked. I first off like that Batman actually does a lot in these scenes. That's a huge improvement. I mean, he's actually going around killing parademons, taking over their huge guns and taking them out, flying through the air. He, flies the spaceship to take down the portal at first. So that was one thing that I thought was much better for the whole overall fight.
Yeah, no denying that.
Yeah, and then just the whole battle that Steppenwolf does with the three, and this is where it comes down to okay, so one of the top moments of the whole movie, and I don't get how they cut this scene from the theatrical Justice League. It just is so cool. And it's when Superman finally comes up back. He runs in front of the axe that Steppenwolf's swinging at Cyborg, and he doesn't deflect it. He lets it hit him in the shoulder, and he says, "Not impressed." And he just
not impressed.
He blows ice on the axe, breaks it in half, and then just kicks the shit out of Steppenwolf. I mean, I don't get how you change it to just him blatantly, boringly punching him. I mean, that was such a great moment.
And it wasn't, and you're right, it was an ass kicking, but I almost think that understates how big of it's literally him going womp 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 womp, and with the lasers. I mean, he literally puts a foot up of Steppenwolf's ass. You thought the meme was Steppenwolf when he found out he owed Darkseid 50,000 worlds was a funny face that he made there. No, you should have seen. They didn't show it, but my God, I bet his face was a little funny there when Superman was kicking his candy ass there. My God.
Yeah.
It was just great. And just, I mean, I'm trying to think of other scenes there too. I just think, and one thing I remember thinking during that, I'm like, okay, so the Flash is just running in a circle. Okay, that kind of makes sense. What was the reason for him running in a circle, honestly, at first? To
break up the mother boxes, they needed that light speed. They needed that jolt of electricity that Flash gets from his huge speeds. So Cyborg is trying to remove it, and he's trying to prevent them from going in because he has that connection because he was created by the mother boxes. Yep. Flash is running around the circle to try to get fast enough to go and touch him. So Cyborg finally gets ready, and then that's when Flash is finally hit, in his side by one of the parademons that's in the guns in the whatever.
Which is one of the greatest shots I've ever seen out of a monster demon, out of any bad guy in any movie.
Really can see this guy that's moving 1,000,000 miles a second, and
he's really just gotcha.
Yeah, he's And then he goes to Vision like, and then he's like, oh. Flash like, oh, I just got tripped up. But like that's as silly as that was, it leads to the awesome moment where the Justice League loses, where the mother boxes come together, Earth is about to get demolished, and then Flash enters the Flash Force or the Life, whatever it's called, where he's kind of going super, where he goes like the speed of light or faster, and he starts talking to himself. He heals his wound, and he starts talking to himself. He's like, "All right, you got to break your rules, Barry. You got to break your rules." And then he starts running, and he runs faster than the speed of light to reverse the time, which is super cool. It's awesome, and he's talking to himself. He's like, "This is for you, Dad. I'm one of the best of the best," which is such a great moment. It's awesome. And
chills. I literally was talking to Max before this. Chills.
Yeah. Talk about it, Kevin, because this is one of your favorite moments, I think.
I think it's just one of those things where this was I think this is one of the most creative, one of the most absurd, I just think one of the greatest scenes I've ever seen in any superhero movie. The more I think about it, I've watched this scene probably 20 times. Just like I'll during the day, I'll just randomly put it on because if you watch the first movie, there's no inkling of anything like this even being a part of it. And it is such a instrument. And what's great about it, Max, too, is the fact that it's in front of Darkseid. Darkseid has to watch all this happen. Darkseid thinks to himself, essentially what happens is Darkseid, there's like a portal that opens up. Darkseid, Dakan, whatever the hell his name is, approach the army of Darkseid is essentially watching Steppenwolf finally succeed, take these guys down. And essentially it goes, the mother block blows up. The entire world essentially blows up. But all you see is when it starts, right before it hits the Flash, he looks at it, puts his hand out there, and obviously his time goes slower. You see, and the music starts to pick up. It goes, oh my God. And the music starts picking up. And you hear almost like kind of like it's literally one of the coolest. And I already said that 2 minutes ago. I don't care. One of the coolest scenes I've ever seen in my entire life. Watching him literally reverse time, just the way they showed reversing time, I just thought was so sick. God, it was awesome, and it just showed how important Barry was to this movie, and just. I just think to myself, like, my God, like I'm actually excited for a Flash film that's coming out in 2022 because that scene itself, just everything they did there, like it was just a perfect climax. The climax itself was the best part of the movie for me, and I don't want to go too much into it. It was just amazing.
I agree completely, and this basically which comes to my main kind of just frustration is I don't get how Warner Brothers saw this ending and said change this ending. At least there's so many things they didn't change throughout the movie, and I don't get how all of these moments is what they decided to change because all these moments are so great. The whole Flash sequence, the whole Cyborg talking back with his parents and having to say I'm not broken and having to stop the visualization of himself with his parents in heaven or wherever and remove the mother boxes. It's so great, and it's just a fantastic ending. So Kevin, it kind of comes to that point where I think we have to talk about the epilogue.
Yeah, I mean, the ending is the same as the ending before. It's essentially, everything goes back to being good. And the epilogue is essentially, it starts with Cyborg going back or bringing back the recorder that he ended up destroying early in the movie of what his father was going to say to him, and listening to what his father, not the scientist, was talking to him about, but the father was talking to him about. Was that not the epilogue?
That was the first part of the epilogue, or part of it was the epilogue. Absolutely, yes, it was fantastic.
So like pretty much very similar, but everything comes to good. Everyone's very happy. I'm trying to think, is there any good points before we get into the scene with the scene in the prison?
Well, yeah. So they have the same basic scene with Lex Luthor, where he escapes prison and then he goes. He's on the boat, and that's when Deathstroke comes up. Except the whole conversation with the Deathstroke just seems different. Because he's trying to hire him to kill Batman because Batman took out Deathstroke's eye. So, and then Deathstroke is super excited because, the whole scene is just better. And the first one is more, the dialogue is more that he wants to get together like their own league. basically. So that all came off together much better. And then it sets up the nightmare sequence.
The nightmare sequence, Max. My God, what a tease! Zack Snyder literally was like putting middle fingers to WB and Lily being like, "Oh, you don't want me to shoot any extra scenes, any new scenes? You don't want me to show you what this could have been? Oh, okay, I won't do that. I won't show you what this could have been." Boom, bang, right at the end there. Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I don't know if I'll go that far. I
thought it
don't
was
think he was
amazing
trying to.
because it was
I
actually
think
finally. Keep going, sir.
no. I was just gonna say he said like initially like he wanted to like do the setup for where he was going to go and he was going to have something like this in the movie. So like I think that like it's perfectly like he wasn't trying to do a fuck you to see where things would have gone. I think he realistically would have shown if he could do his full cut back in the original that this is where he wanted to take things, which is great. And the whole scene, I think I really loved at the time of, and I think it was great, and it got me really wanting to see that movie and see where the next two Justice Leagues would have gone, and seeing this whole sequence where Batman has to work with Deathstroke and Joker. The Joker stuff at first, I was really into it. Looking back on it, I don't love it as much, and the whole sequence seems like it could have not been involved. But that first time seeing it, I kind of got just such a joy, and it was just so interesting. So I think it's overall positive for me, but I don't love it as much still as I first did.
Yeah, I love it still. I love the fact that we
And
got to
that's great.
finally see the Joker. We got to see the Joker and Batman interact in this. I love the fact that it was the most random bunch of dirtbags grouped together having to go into a battle against Darkseid. I mean, and it also, and if you had looked into, kind of the background of what was kind of expected with the next two Justice League movies, it was cool to see that it wasn't just kind of rumors that this was supposed to be what was going to happen with this. It was the fact that we could have seen, we might be able to see, who knows, the fact that we're going to see maybe, Batman have to team up with the Flash, Cyborg,
Yeah.
Mara, Deathstroke, and the Joker. And the fact that, and I want to go back to the Joker. I just love the scene where the fact Batman dropped a fat F bomb saying he will, and I promise you, I will fucking kill you. And it's just they both were just dropping their balls on the table, and essentially, whoever I guess kind of backed off first. It was cool to see that instead of them being just be like, we're both the same kind of characters. We're both, we're the same kind of people always. Essentially, they just, they both had their guns triggered and like, you're gonna pull away, or who's gonna pull away first? So, I thought it was good interaction. They could have made the reach around line was a little interesting. I'm not gonna lie, but it was just, I honestly am happy with them kind of interacting together, and that we got to see that. That's that at the end of the day. That's all I want for this. So
Yeah, it's a really fun scene. So, and the final little tag, Bruce wakes up from the nightmare, and what do you know? We think it's Superman, but really it's Martian Manhunter. And he comes and talks, and he says basically, "Okay, I want to join. I want to fight, and I want to help protect Earth now." I thought the effects for Martian Manhunter was really cool. He looked great.
Bruce Wayne,
It
or
was really
sorry,
cool.
just Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck looked the best he looked in the entire movie. You can definitely tell this was
Ben
a new
Affleck
shot.
did look great. Yeah, absolutely. Ben Affleck did look great. The only thing I'm thinking, like, okay, Martian Manhunter, you've been here all this time. You didn't help out with General Zod, and you didn't help out with Doomsday Comes, and now you didn't help out. But, like, I can look past it. It's a comic book story, so, like, that's fine.
Yeah,
But I was like,
all
you
about
could
it.
have helped along the way, but it was just cool to see him talking, Bruce Wayne talking with Martian Manhunter on the screen. Like, that's just cool.
Yeah, it was a good scene. Just adds more to it. It just adds more intrigue. It just adds more, honestly, a tease to it all. Again, he's potentially the seventh member of the Justice League.
Yeah, round out the
And
table.
on that note, it ends up him flying off into the sunset, and then we get a sick little music that ends up the entire movie from Junkie XL.
Yeah. And then his little tag for Autumn for his daughter, who obviously sadly passed away. So that was great and beautiful. So Yeah, that wraps up basically our whole discussion of Zack Snyder's Justice League, Kevin. We went for an hour on it.
Didn't think we'd put 55 minutes into this. All right, not bad.
Yeah, we did our job. We did what we talked about it all, everything that we could. I'm sure there's small things here and there we could have touched on, but yeah, we both really loved it overall. I had a great
We're
time
happy
with
it came out. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Kevin, thank you for joining me on this Tuesday evening. Where can they find you on the Twitterverse?
All right, everybody. You see my name right there. That is my Twitter handle, and I think it's I think that's also my Instagram. I don't really care if you guys follow either or. I think whatever. Hope this goes big because we put in 55 minutes. I think of really deep talk. This is a movie I've been waiting for, honestly, for a year. When Max, I just remember when Max heard about this. I just love the fact that Max
we were
loving
like,
it almost as much as me. Yeah. Max,
Yeah,
I just love it. Bring Max's expectations away.
I'm happy that I loved it. I'm always hoping that I love everything I watch. So I was super happy I loved it.
And I think the best thing is that everyone. Oh, sorry. I was just saying the best thing too, dude, is everyone wants the Snyderverse to be. I think that's something. Not everyone, but you never know. Something could happen.
You never know. We'll have to see.
Max wants a sequel. Max wants a sequel.
I won't lie. So yeah, that's our review, guys. You can follow me at ZwalkMax on Twitter. Handles right there. Thank you so much for if you made it this long. If you could please like this video, if you could please share it to all your friends that love movies just like us. We'd love to have all the fans we can. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Binge Brothers.
Love you guys.